Okay, almost there. Okay. Live stream. Start the live stream. Switch over the audio. Okay, almost there. Set my Okay, one more thing to do here, which is start the broadcast. I think we're all set. Okay, here we go. And I need a co-host, which would be good for recording in case something craps out of my end. Alper or Dan, could you be co-host? Be willing to be co-host?
If you want, yes.
Okay, fine, thank you. It's mostly just for recording purposes. Oops, I went wrong there. Doesn't want to take for a co-host for you, Dan, for some reason. See everybody.
I'm from telephone, from forward fine.
Okay. Maybe Alper, I'll make you co-host, and just so you, just so it makes a record. Didn't do it for him either. I think what it is everybody has older software. You all need to update the software. So for some reason, it's not taking the co-host function. So we'll just have to wing it for now. Okay. I think we're ready to go then. Okay. Hello, everyone. It's the Keshe Plasma Reactor Group. I'm Rick Crammond, and it is Tuesday. Well, okay, it's Wednesday, September 19th, 2018. Most parts of this planet, Earth. And we are gathered here in Zoom and other media, YouTube, Facebook, and Livestream. And we are ready to begin today's show, I believe. So, first thing I usually do is ask if anybody has something they would like to show today, and or have any questions or other things they would like to present. And let me just get something straightened away here first. There we go. Okay, so anyone have something they would like to present? Or a question or some other thing? Oh, let me bring in the attendees here as well.
It's one question. I thinking yesterday when the Mosek speaking in Caroline with Caroline about what's in their reactor of copper oxide, because you have about guns, no? Maybe it's better making whiteboard for
Okay.
understanding.
Do you want me to do the whiteboard and you can mark on it then? Or, okay, you can do it.
Okay.
If you can do it, that's fine.
Okay. I have now reactor of copper oxide, copper nano, and copper. You have 69 and 63.5. It's not so important. It's usually copper, no, migrate from black for copper to nano, meaning oxygen in the water, and you have copper oxide in different state. Difference, it's 4, right? Like atomic mass. And when you added, for example, zinc, you have CH4. Because you have zinc, copper nano, you have 6 for carbon. But if you don't want to use zinc, you have difference of H4. I don't know, it's 4 atom of strange energy of in plasmatic way, no, in field of oops, I did wrong something. Okay, you have 4 in this position, like a field, like a magnet. Your guns, usual, it's saying copper oxide, because you have copper atom migrate from copper to copper nano, in mixed with oxygen, you have copper oxide. But you have this field, or 4, it's interpreted like, I don't know, 2 helium or 4 hydrogen, or I don't know what, deuterium, or 1 tritium and 1 hydrogen, or deuterium. Because when Mr. Keshe say looking in the reactor, no, you don't have 1 gas settled down in the bottom. You have least 2 or 3 from matter and field. These 4, how to interpret H4? When you added zinc, you have CH4. It's for better understanding how to make the gas, because I understand, but day by day, when I thinking and looking in reactors, it's more, you have everything, but you choose what environment create. This is the question. This field of 4, how interpret this field? For
Well,
example, yes.
first of all, it's not not necessarily a distinct number 4.
Yes,
because the estimate is the 59 is an estimate for the nano copper to start with, right? And
yes.
besides that, the copper 63, it could be copper 65, it could be other isotopes involved as well. So you're going to have a range from probably 2 or 3 up to maybe 6 or 8 or 10 or something like that in terms of the range of interactions.
Yes.
So 4 is kind of an estimate or an average, let's say.
Like in the middle of this range.
Yeah, probably.
Because you have peak and you have mountain and valley.
Right.
I understand. Because this field, I can't interpret or interact with, I don't know, this 3 or 4, how to feel. It interact with oxygen in the solution, salt solution. Interact also with this copper oxide, or how to say, gans of copper. It's many interaction, but it's for using this field, no? Because it's like a magnet. You attract in this environment all kind, but I want specific.
Right.
Something, no, for standardization, for understand what's attract inside. This is the question. This field of, like I say, 2, 6, from 2 or 6, for example, is not 4, strict 4. It's what game Sky saying it's CO2. CO2 when you making field of carbon this 6, right, Sky? In the chat. Because when you have zinc, yes, it's carbon. You're making also copper oxide, also CO2 interact CO2 with copper oxide, or I don't know, and you putting inside iron, you have interact with CH3, you're making hemoglobin, you're making blood, you're making, depend what material, what field is inside.
Can anybody else add to the knowledge here about that? I wish Shandor was here. He's good with these figures and determining the fields from that.
This is my question. What's inside of reactor of copper oxide? Like a copper oxide, no?
Well, you've got the interaction between the two plates, of course, the fields in between. And I think the arrow should go the other way, that the copper oxide forms from the nano-copper plate, I believe. Doesn't it fall off the nano plate and not the copper plate?
Matter is not weaker regarding nano blade. Nano blade is considered like a magnet. because you have two copper which interact. Like say you putting a little current. No, one is plus, another is minus. You have a direction in electron flies. But when you have one nano, like a strain, like a mass, it's less. But like a strain, it's up. I don't know. This is my understanding. Migrate the copper, no atom of this copper. What's happening with natrium? Good question. Because you have salt, water. No, you have natrium chloride. You have water. This natrium, when you have natrium OH hydroxide, is alkaline. When you have hydrogen and chlorine, you have acid, chloride. And this reaction, it's is balanced, no? What salt, what, no what, how, and how much salt it's in there. But it's just understanding how to, when you're making gas, no, copper for body, for soul, for human or living beings, it's part of body and not only body. Yes. For my understanding, copper, no, atom of this blade of copper, no, it's attract from nano, and you have hydrogen, you have oxygen in water. You have copper oxide, you have this hydrogen, field of hydrogen. I think it's field of hydrogen. Perhaps it's copper minus something. It's this number. It's not like a number. It's like a field. This magnet here. And this magnet here for example, interact also with 63 or range of, I don't know, 16, and depend what isotope you have. Interact also with nano. You have also, for example, 50, I don't know, 3, and 61 or 62. I don't know what range taking, but interact also with this. The result of field with matter, it's another interaction, that point of balance. And you have, no, for example, it's 56, 4 or 6, you have iron in this position. And another part, 17 minus 4, you have zinc or copper. You have all kind of result. But which this field use for making another field, another interaction? It's too many in this cleaning up. I'm making this copper nano. copper, you have, for example, field of 4. Between copper nano and 4, you have, for example, iron, no? Field of iron. It's less, you have field of nano iron, which means, or nickel. Between this copper and this 4, you have, I don't know, zinc or copper, field of copper in this point. And these interact also again and again and again. It's like a fractal. You have this interaction in macro and in micro. Okay,
Yeah.
I went in, yes.
Well, it's true. Is there's many reactions that are able to take place, but it'll be a predominantly certain reactions, at least until those elements get depleted, and then it can transition into other reactions, like like we've seen with the chicken wire, for example, that has the zinc coating over the iron. Eventually, it changes color from. It may start out having some CO2 GANs or zinc oxide GANs, and then it changes to the copper oxide GANs, and then it changes to the CH3 GANs and so on. So it could have a series of transitions depending on what's the environment inside. And with the salt water and, like you say, different elements in there, then different things are going to take place. And then you take the idea of isotopes as well, and it becomes a, there's going to be some isotopes, like they talk about copper as 2 stable isotopes, 63 and 65. And most of it's 63, about 70% of it is 63, and about 30% is 65. So it may be
you don't have matter, you have field of this element, like element, thinking, and obtain another reaction, another field, no field, another train field.
One of the isotopes of copper is 67. It's got a half-life of 61 hours. So some of the copper atoms in there will be only copper for 61 hours, and half of them will be changing to a different isotope after that, and so on. So it's interesting when you look at it that way, because there's a range, and so you're going to have some things going on. There's even a beta decay, what they call the beta decay with the copper, and actually you can have 2 different kinds of decay that happens. So it actually gives off a electron or positron, a beta ray they call it, and a neutrino, according to what they talk about, are emitted from the nucleus. And so it transforms a neutron into a proton by emission of an electron. So you can also convert a proton. A proton can be converted into a neutron. So let's have a look at that briefly here. I think that would be interesting. So this is our good old pal Wikipedia here. I was just looking up beta decay because I was looking at the isotopes of copper, And it's got all these different isotopes from 52 all the way up to 80. That's a wide spread. But like I was saying, most of it is 63 or 65. Those are the so-called stable ones. But these other unstable isotopes of copper, which are going to be part of, they'll all be there in any example of copper. It's just that most of them only exist for a second or a millisecond or a few milliseconds, in some cases only a few nanoseconds, some for minutes and hours and so on. And then they have these decay modes. So if we look at the decay, which I was looking at here, where'd it go? Okay, there's beta decay. It says in nuclear physics, beta decay is a type of radioactive decay in which a beta ray, a fast energetic electron or positron, and a neutrino are emitted from an atomic nucleus. And so it says, for example, a beta decay of a neutron transforms it into a proton by the emission of an electron. Or conversely, a proton is converted into a neutron by the emission of a positron, thus changing the nuclide type. So this is interesting. This is actually the transmutation of elements that is spoken of. And so this essentially is happening all the time with copper, but on a nano level and not with the mass the mass majority of the atoms. That's not happening to the copper atoms, but some of them, a certain percent, are unstable, and so they could decay. The copper excuse me, the copper can decay either way. It can transform a neutron into a proton, or it can transform a proton into a neutron. So this is actually quite interesting if you think about it. It gets into some more of the ins and outs of that, how that works and so on through all this. So in this form of decay, it says here, the original element becomes a new chemical element in a process known as nuclear transmutation. This new element has an unchanged mass number A, but an atomic number Z that is increased by 1. So basically, for example, they gave an example somewhere here of zinc can actually change into copper, and they use that for some kind of lab tests and so on. They use the radioactive version in order to show up or somehow show up in the tests, I believe. And they actually use copper but convert it to where was it here? I'd like to find that part. See, they talk about the daughter isotopes here that the copper can convert to. So copper can become nickel, copper can become zinc, and that's basically it. Those are the two daughter isotopes, different isotopes for different copper isotopes, but each one can, through the decay mode, through the beta decay, can convert. As soon as you convert a neutron into a proton, you've changed the element. It is now, you know, a nickel instead of a copper, simply because of that conversion, or vice versa. And I know that was how one energy device works. I forget the name of it now. Maybe someone can help me with that. The conversion of copper to nickel. Rossi, I think, was his name, Italian, and he had a energy device that was self-sustaining and would last for months, and converted copper to nickel through a radioactive process, or through basically a radioactive process, but it gave off an enormous amount of energy. And that's you know, part of the decay mode of what happens when this beta decay happens, because it gives off a bunch of energy as a beta ray, fast energetic electron or positron, and a neutrino. So talk about the energy release here, for example. And there's all the equations for it, for those that are interested in such things.
Problem is you have this transmutation, like I don't know, I see in one French, I don't know how year ago. It's iron, you have isotope magnetizing and transform this isotope in other isotope. It's transmutation, not this is the problem. The problem you have this element, which means it's a transmute or not, in what kind of range of field of energy. I don't know what, I don't understand yet in what kind of element is transmute. Because Mr. Keshe is saying, for example, for zinc, you have one kind of electron of neutron and proton and electron, which means carrying behind one type of strength. It's not like it's not the same like a copper or hydrogen or I don't know, iron or another element. It's different neutron, which means it's not the same. I use it, add it or take in and obtain another element. This is my problem. You have copper, you have zinc, you have this range of element from 0. I don't know, 10 of this, and after this number of molecular mass or number of proton or neutron is for understanding what's in there and how to use, how to making distinction. No, when you looking in the nano reactor, I don't know what react, same material, for example, zinc nano, or copper nano, or iron nano, or nickel, or I don't know. Well, food, for example, no, you have all kind of elements inside. You have field of this. You have neutron of all kind of matter element in this nature. It's how to understand what's in the inside. and how to use. You know, this is my problem. When Mr. Keshe saying, look in the reactor, it's all Arman always say, you have all the feel. You have, yes, I agree. You have all the feel, but how to eat it's itself, it's stabilization, looking from your position with another, like a magnet. But how to identify this reaction and how to not isolate, understanding and using.
Well, I mean, you've probably done experiments with the Ganses and creating it and so on, and you've probably tried different things to see what the results were, and you got different results along the way, and you kind of, I'm sure you've gained an understanding on, you know, like the difference, what happens if you increase the salt concentration, for example, and what happens if you have, you know, twice as many plates as another set, and all that kind of thing. Trying different variables. Have you noticed anything that way? Have you noticed changes from changing the conditions?
Yes, like a color, like a, I don't know, distance, when the gas is attracted, another gas is closer. But it's, I don't understand. For me, looking my guns, my battle with guns in all kind of reactors is beautiful. Something like a art, like a picture, like I don't know, like something very very nice. When you're making crystal, when making different kind of colors, but it's for understanding what it is inside and how to work with this, because I have copper oxide, zinc oxide, and I don't know, CO2. You're making triangle, and this is it. You're waiting for interact, for feeling something or seeing something, or how to interact. I, like a soul, like a body, with this reactor, with this field. What is the change? Yes, I'm peaceful. I'm I don't know, agitate in some time, or something is changed, like understanding, like react. But it's in this moment, after 2 years or 3, in my mind, it is blowing. It's more confusion. When the initial, yes, putting this, making this is the interaction. Yes, in this moment, I don't know how and who interact with who and what is the result.
Well, what is you wish to create? What is your intention to start with? Like, are you just mixing things up to see what happens, or do you have an intention? Do you wish to create certain specific nano coating, certain specific GANs materials, certain, you know, because we know that if we change certain conditions, then we can create different Ganses, for example. We get different colors, we get different responses, and so on. And we know some of them are good for certain purposes, and some of them are good for other purposes, and that kind of thing. What is your intention? What do you need to get from it? What information do you need in order to progress to the next step, let's say, something like that?
Yes, intention. First is for understanding, and second for better, no better, for giving, for understanding this universe. This is for one. Two, you have a attender free. You making co-host somebody because you don't know what's happened.
Sorry, I missed that last thing you said. I didn't understand the last thing you said there. Could you say that again?
Making somebody co-host because in this moment you have the choice many you have many person, no, initially you know you don't have co-host, making co-host for say,
Right. Yeah, it didn't.
and you have attenders, sorry being saying this because another lesson workshop is happening when internet connection is lost. And okay, regarding GANs, it's my intention is for understanding how I work, how to work, and how to manifest this universe, this nature. This is my purpose. It's understanding. It's like say Gerald, when you're thinking one problem, you have already answer inside, and in collective, somebody else putting in front of you answer your problem.
Right. So, have we defined the question, or has it? Are you? Do you have a formulated question that you want to work with? How would you say it? That you want to know more about the interactions that are taking place in the GANs kits? Is that sort of what you're after, or?
You see, you answering from my question. You formulate my question right there for better understanding what's inside of this in this reaction, between this reaction field. What's happened in one reactor or in interaction of two GANs or many GANs or many strength of field of GANs?
Well, I mean, there are lots of descriptions. I mean, Armin's probably done it over 100 times, showing the GANs boxes and the interactions of the plates and what happens. And I know Shandor has done it a lot of times, shown the actual numbers and the interactions between the the two plates and so on, and how the different isotopes respond and all that. And I'm just not sure where to take it. How do you want to look at it? What level do you want to examine it on? Like, you could look at it from the nano point of view. You can look at it from the plasma point of view. You look at it from the chemistry point of view, or the physics point of view, or the just the visual point of view, what you see in the change of materials or colors and so on. There's many ways to.
This is my problem. I want to everything, understand, not only one part. I want to understand only, not only, all. This is my problem.
This is the problem of being human, because we can understand all. It's just that we have to jump from one level to another, and it can get sort of hard to follow sometimes, because if we're talking about the nano level and suddenly we jump to talking about plasma, and then we're talking about the soul interactions, and then back to the matter level things, and then back to nano, back to GANs, and it's jumping up and down the totem pole, you might say. And it's,
Okay, step by step, one by one.
well, the thing is, because we're human and we're multidimensional, then it's easy for at least some people to pop in and out of all these different dimensions and to look at things. They can totally understand it from the matter level, and they can totally understand it from the plasma point of view, and it makes sense from the soul level, and so on. So it just depends on what you want to focus on in order to accomplish some sort of effect somewhere in your environment. And that could be, again, it could be a physical effect, it can be a virtual effect, a nano effect, it can be a spiritual effect, it can be, you know, all these different, can be all of it all at once. So how far do you want to go, and what is your intention? What do you want to create as a creator? What is it exactly you wish to create, or what is it you need to know exactly? If you can formulate exactly what you need to know, then the answer, like you were saying, will be obvious. It'll appear for you, right? You know, right when you need the answer, it'll be there as soon as you formulate that the question that you really have. I mean, it can't be just a general question of kind of like, well, what happens between the plates? Because, like I say, there's been literally hundreds of descriptions of what happens with the field interaction between the plates. You were showing the figure 8, for example. You know, that's part of the understanding of this interaction between the plates, and that has a certain meaning. That whole symbol and the intersection point in the middle, where the, you know, the where the null point is, where the balance point is between the fields. And you know, that's been talked about before by Mr. Keshe and so on. And so there's different aspects that can be brought out depending on how we focus our attention. And that's really what it's all about, is what do you wish to accomplish, and how do you wish to go about that in terms of the focus of attention, the focus of sort of steering the conversation or steering the attention of others, the focus in a certain way, so that that intention or end result is able to have some oomph behind it, some meaning and some understanding. So it kind of depends on what you want to do. Do you want to create? Are you expecting to create materials in this kit? You want to know more about the details of what it is that's being created? Perhaps there's certain tests that you could do to ascertain what that might be, to determine what these substances are, that you use a certain technique and you get certain colored substances, and you wonder, what are these? Are these, you know, something in between the ganses that we normally get, or something different than the ganses we normally get? Maybe it would take certain tests in order to find that out. Maybe you're looking for psychological effects or physiological effects, health effects, or maybe you're trying to grow your garden better and stronger and without, with less bugs or something like that. But on the other hand, maybe it would end up, as Moshfek was talking about, it actually increased the bugs in his garden area where they were experimenting with placement of GANs materials and so on. So what is it that you wish to do, Mr. Dan? What is it what do you wish to accomplish with your kit, let's say?
With the same kit, with the same field, no field, strange field. It's point by point in everything you say. Making energy, making heat, making growing me and plant and change the environment. It's elevate the soul. This is my problem. I want everything with the same. And like Jalal say, you have between two hands. You have everything, but I don't know how to use this thing for obtain this result. It's not only materialization or interact of to feel for my plant. It's growing happy and I want to making food or making ending one storm. It's closing my house or neighborhood. It's all. This is my problem. I want all, and I don't know nothing like in this level because inside me I want I I have all the response of my question, but I don't know yet how to identify this. My mind is blowing.
Well, I think that you've already have some knowledge. You're just not acknowledging your knowledge. Like, for example, have you applied any of the GANs technology to plants at all in your environment? Have you had any effects from using the GANSs with plants?
Yes, I apply in
Aha.
my garden. I I try to I don't know drinking this make taking clothes in my house or I making for energy. I making for oh
So you're trying a number of things, let's say, and you've had some good results in some of these experiments then? And you're starting,
yes yes.
yeah. So,
Well, somebody
so you've already have, say, maybe the plant growth thing, and okay, that works, and then maybe some health healing stuff, and oh, that works, and maybe you've practice some of the elevation of the soul techniques or something like that, and that seems to work. And so I'm thinking that maybe there are things that if you look back, say 4 years ago, before you started interacting with this Keshe technology stuff, has that in that 4-year period, do you see a change in yourself, in your attitudes, or has this been an important period of your life, or has it been just kind of just doesn't matter so much? Is it something that's been I think it's something that's become increasingly important to you, because you're here at this meeting, for example. You're not off having a beer with the boys or whatever it is that you tend to do if you weren't working with the plasma technology and wanting to know more about this knowledge. So somehow you find yourself here and at the Knowledge Seekers workshops and different events and various teachings and so on, and more involved with it. So there's something there, and you must be getting something out of it in order to continue. Otherwise, there'd be, there's literally millions of other things to do on this planet besides fooling around with GANs and nanomaterials and all the stuff that we do in the Keshe Foundation technology. So I'm just trying to highlight that I think there's already changes that, deep changes that have occurred just from interacting with this knowledge, just trying the act of trying to understand, striving to understand that gnawing inside of us that, we want to know more, we want to get a grasp on this. But it's big, it's very big. It's like Mr. Keshe told me about 5 years ago, that there's as many types of reactors as there are stars in the universe. And I just went, well, that's going to be kind of difficult to come up with the ultimate reactor that does everything, because my ultimate reactor that does everything is going to be different than your ultimate reactor that does everything, and different than some other being's one, because we interact with these things. We put part of ourselves into it, and it becomes a two-way interaction. It's not just you build something and it's an thing that's out there. It becomes, you build something and it becomes, you are a co-creator with it, because it continues to create, it continues to live on its own. It's like when, people have a child, and the mother gives birth to a child, and there's that connection. It's not just a thing that's out there. There's going to have that emotional connection for the full life of those beings. So, and maybe beyond that as well. So, so we have these connections, and we have these, the idea that there are many types of reactors, because this is, because of that multidimensionality. I mean, one could spend an entire lifetime just in creating nanomaterials. Many scientists do that now. It's a hundreds of billions of dollar a year industry, and many scientists will be in nanotechnology for their entire lifetime and still discovering new things about some intricate little tiny part of that spectrum. And, in the meantime, there's going to be other scientists that are just really into the GANs, and the GANs is the thing, and they will know all about the GANSes and experiment with them and find out all of the limits that can be pushed with GANs. And then maybe they'll go on to other things, and maybe they'll just stay with GANs. Maybe they're happy with that. But others might want to become working on the plasma level in a more direct way with the plasma. And as Mr. Keshe has outlined, the next step might be the plasma manipulator. You become someone that's good at working with plasma and actually understanding and working at that level. And that would be the level of a creator, someone that's able and has the skills and abilities to create. And that can be thought of and looked at in many different levels, ultimately we become as a god. We are the creator, and that's at that highest level. Or perhaps there's other creators, and we find out that there's an ultimate creator. However you like to look at it, there's different levels that can be approached, attained, and it's not instantaneous. You can't always just go from knowing about the nano today and thinking that, oh, I can go to the plasma level or spiritual level, no problem. It's just the next level, and just more knowledge is needed. But it's some of these levels it's a whole gradation of difference. And like Mr. Keshe has said, and others, that one can get stuck in different levels on this planet, because it could be fun to stay in the nano level and work with that nanotechnology. That might be what gives you a thrill. And it can be thrilling at times. That's something I'd like to delve into the nano level and some of the intricate details of the structures on the nano level and the way it works and the interactions of the fields on that level and so on. But then I recognize that the GANs is important because it ties in the fields, first of all, with the fields of the physicality, or bodies composed of GANs, and the way it works with the transforming of the matter level into GANs, and the GANs into plasma, and the plasma back into GANs and back into matter and out the other end. And that process that occurs with life and the interaction of life with an actual device of some sort that we build, or what essentially is a life form that we build. And then we get into just working with the fields and into what we call feeling the fields, as it's known as, and the connection between emotion and the soul, and the working with that on a more direct manner. So, as Microsoft says, where do you want to go today? So you can choose which level you'd like to work with, or, as Dan would like to do, work with all the levels at once. Because it seems like if one was really good at being a creator, you would have full access to all the levels at once. That's kind of what the idea of omnipresent or omnificent, as it's known as, being everywhere at once, being at all those levels all at once. So then maybe we could have a better vision. Once we've set our intention, we'd be able to clarify our vision very quickly, as Mr. Keshe seems to be able to go from one level to another and end up, discussing about the element copper and these plates and, the salt solution and so on, but then also indicating that on several different levels at once, let's say, and able to talk about the spiritual aspects as well as the GANs and nano and element and physicality, practically all in the same breath.
In this moment, you describe how I feel in this moment. I'm work. I thinking what I am doing in this moment at work. I thinking with my soul and my mind. I am waiting with you, and I think in another part of my mind thinking for answer and respond, and in this moment from in plasma way. It's like I am one piece, but it's in three, four, or six piece in same time.
Right. So this is just like your GANs box that you're talking about in a way. And we have inside of ourselves different isotopes of ourselves that interact with the environment. So instead of only one isotope of yourself, like maybe the one that does work at the job site or something like that, one could focus just on that. But perhaps you're a multi-dimensional being that can talk on the phone at the same time as working, at the same time as developing some concepts and working with some ideas, and all this stuff's going on at the same time. So, and here you are interacting with others around the entire planet at the same time through the miracle of our modern communications devices, and affecting things. And we're discussing certain ideas and so on, and others are listening in, and that affects them, and they might have some inspiration from that and go off and do some experiment that ends up in a couple of years later that was the key thing that enabled a certain type of technology to progress, perhaps. And someone put their attention on it, and someone took it all the way and decided, whoa, there's something here, something special. And they can, we never know really what the results of our actions are going to be, and of our the things that we say and do in this kind of technology. But we can know that if our intention is correct, and we set it with the intention of working for the benefit of others rather than just ourselves, then we end up with a certain trust and a certain confidence that the universe will come through for us, because we do it for others. We wish for peace for the planet. We wish for helping others through their afflictions and their suffering, and generally making things better in our environment. So it seems like if we have those intentions and we set that to start with, then that colors the whole experiment, let's say. And the experiment could be more than the GANs box, but the experiment of our life. And that our life gets colored by our attitudes and our intention from moment to moment. And that's basically what forms our experience, is that intention, because it comes from a deeper place. It comes, to really set intention it comes from a very, the deepest place within ourselves, that place that's closest to the free plasma, you could say. Anyway, I didn't mean to go on and on there, but
I want to ending my thoughts, my discussion, because I also somebody else perhaps want to say something, and I don't want to wrap your time with my discussion. I listened and learning, I hope. Better and better. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, everyone.
I think it was a good inspiration for us. So thank you for the question, Dan, and for working with it. Like we have to wrestle with these things sometimes and kind of take it from different angles and try to penetrate what it is that we're really after. Hey, Alper, you got your camera on? Did you want to show something there?
Good morning, Nick.
I can just show and he can just talk. And it's okay. I just reversed it.
Okay, could you explain to us what you got going on here? This is the same things you had before, right? The copper wire wrapped tube. I'm not sure if you're trying to talk, Alper, but we're not hearing you. So.
Oh, I see. I'm terribly sorry. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yep, hear you good now.
Thank you so much. All right, this was the one that I have showed a couple of weeks ago, and some orange substance in it, and some on top of another cleaned plasma water. Now it has turned into a different combination, but I'd like to show you this. That's why I have, I try to talk really sorry. Years ago, I remember Mr. Rick told me, oh, Alper, after you've done your nano-coding, why don't you keep that water after you have used drain opener? This was years and years ago. It didn't mean anything to me because I was thinking when I was trying to nano-coat the wires that I have made, the coils and plates, anything, I thought I was using something toxic, which I had thought all the time, more than a year, which I shouldn't really touch anything near this material, this substance, because it was toxic. When it's mixed with hot water, it bubbles, and my knowledge was this much. Truly, I've cleaned one of it because I have nano-coated many wires in different sizes, in different various containers. So I've end up on some of those very clean ones already. Like it didn't have many bits and pieces in it. It felt right. So I cleaned it. I cleaned some of them, a gallon of it, maybe more than a gallon. I've kept it over a year. I've used it time to time for some experiments, but I have used this for the last 3 weeks for some nails in this area. Like, as I said, once I thought I have created something and invented something, and I am trying to use that invention to be able to invent something else with that. So I am pushing myself forward and forward and forward to think what else I can do with anything. This blue thing, what I thought, to my belief, is the various combination of hydrogen is in the perspective of our eyes, that we be able to see the colors of it. And then when it's interacting, anything is interacting in the GANS condition, unless it's charged, overcharged, it bubbles up. But in its right condition, when you leave it, it happens over time, smoothly and slowly, and how it should be. That's what I think. It takes a lot of time. That's what I have experienced. By using what I have already created and doing it something else on top of it, gave me more ideas. In terms of this, this greenish little, the surface there is overdone CuO2, which means I have given a lot more energy, voltage into the GAN's environment, and so it turned into greenish. But when I used it later on, it has created these this environment, along with absolutely what is on top of it. For sure, I'm not aware of all the available combinations and the formulas. There is a result right now. This is all heart-to-heart experiment, as I would say, as I would always try to do. But what has occurred below on the surface, as I have witnessed on the other one, strings of aberrations. These strings turns and twists rather than accumulates like the rest of the clutter there, which they're all plasmatic. What I have understood with all that, what happens is, on top of a plasmatic situation, plasmatic surface, another experiment what is being initiated with the intention that is being, started. You're wondering, you want to do something on top of it, would create something which is, I wouldn't say a life form, but it is a form. Geometrical form within its creation, but it gives out the indication of some kind of understanding has been accumulated there to make that form, other than the rest of it. This is my understanding. It hasn't connected to any of the Tesla coils and the rest, but I do it sometimes just to speed up the process. What it is the simplified version of what is Tesla is. When you touch the cable, when you feel the jolt, that's electricity. With Tesla, we don't feel the jolt, but environment is filled with electricity. So we're constantly charged up, and being able to receive this energy all the time without its negative effect, I would say. So I put this, I would recognize this as a matter state. Tesla is a matter state to me. When I step onto Tesla, I would go and move on to plasma state freely. This makes me, well, thanks to Tesla, of course, he gave me all the indications and understanding what plasma might be, until I met with Mr. Keshe, and everything else made sense after that. What is real, what is not real. Based on all our understanding, the closest understanding is out there on YouTube, where you like to search. I'm not going to give the name. I'm just going to give the title of it, and where you can search it. Electric Universe, where I'm not talking about media, main professors, or where the professors work in the universities. Let's say above that, where they go for conferences, even they think it's electric, some of it. and they're not even close to what we understand, and they're not even close to what we come here. But there are good names in the history where we should honor them in terms of where people believed. They didn't call the field, but they believed in the field. They were so scared, like they were going to be hanged or killed. But we feel the field according to what the past say, and we prove this with Mr. Keshe's understanding. And all this, what I do is to prove again and again to myself what I can do, what I cannot do, what I can fluctuate, what I cannot fluctuate in between the channels. And what I wanted to do is to be able to see the light, actually, if it was like a light bulb, but it takes time and it takes energy. And that's all for now. I hope you liked it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alper. And you should really get a tripod, because it gets hard. When you get excited, the camera starts bouncing around, and
I know, I'm so sorry. Terribly sorry. Thank you.
Hi. But it's good. Thank you, Alper. It's nice to see your creations there. It's always colorful and interesting, and I like your input. Alrighty. Where are we here? Anybody have something else they'd like to bring up at this point, or question or comment or presentation? We have a few more people that just came in.
Oh, Rick. So
Hi, Mark.
Hey, I just wanted to say to Dan, just a small comment, was what we're trying to do, and what Mr. Keshe is showing us, I think, in the box, among other things, is that we need to learn how to convert energies. We need to learn how to transport energies, and we need to learn how to transmute energies.
So the microphone is hitting something there that's causing some noise.
Okay.
Maybe it's just wind or something in the background.
Okay,
Thank
yeah.
you, Mark.
Yeah, no, I wanted to say, is this better?
Yeah, that's better. Great, thanks.
A fan or something. That Mr. Keshe is saying we need to learn how to convert energies, and we need to learn how to transport energies, and we need to learn how to transmute energies. And that's what's going on in the box. And the box is an example, one of the examples of who we are. Mr. Keshe has said on numerous occasions, this is a trick I had to show you to reach you in the matter state somehow, even though GANS is not, well, I guess it's in a matter state, but it's a plasma in a matter state. But anyway, that's what I just wanted to say to Dan about what he's trying to figure out what's going on in there. But it's an example Mr. Keshe has been using to show us who we are, because we're full of GANs and we're doing this transmutations and conversions and transportations of energy. Your body's doing it naturally all the time, 24 hours a day, just like the leaf. So I just wanted to say that.
Yep, that's right. And there's different radioactive processes going on in the body that are totally essential for the splitting of cells and the growth and transmutation at the nano level, and all kinds of interesting things going on. And the more the scientists and the biologists look at it, the more they find out that they didn't know what they thought they knew, and all of a sudden there's they're starting to come up against the plasma world now, and because they see things going on in the body that I don't know, if you stub your toe, then it makes reactions through the entire, all the cells of the body are responding in different ways and almost instantaneously. And this is some of the things they can't figure out. How could it be instantaneous when it should be traveling through a nervous system and so on? But it goes beyond that. It travels from the fields rather than the physical interactions. And this is what they're starting to realize, that there's more than just atoms moving around, or more than just chemicals going in and out of cells and that kind of thing. There's actual field effects that are going on, and the field effects are actually more profound than the physicality things that are going on. Okay, anybody else like to weigh in here? Comment or concept? Anybody have some topic they'd like to bring up for discussion here? But he used you earlier, Shandor, for helping with the Dan's Gans box idea, trying to balance the nano copper and copper plates and figure out the copper oxide interactions and so on. I think we got.
So sorry, I dropped here late, which to me is very early, early morning. I'm half sleeping and trying with a coffee to wake up somehow.
Yeah, no pressure. We pretty much figured out what we needed to discuss at the time, I think. So, but you're good with the balancing of the isotopes and the balancing of the atomic numbers and so on. You've probably,
that's easy in theory. It's very easy in theory.
Right. Yeah. I think I mentioned that you've probably described that hundreds of times to people in your workshops in different times.
Well, we have the mass number of each element.
Yeah, that's what we were looking at. We were also looking at the wide spectrum of isotopes of copper, which goes
and the difficulty is you never know what you have in your hand.
Yes, right.
How much is moisture, how much is anything else, etc. So I think if you want to balance, it's the only way is to observe the effect while you try to add drop by drop.
Right, and we also talked about one's intention. What does one intend to do has a lot to do with it as well, rather than just sort of looking for just throwing some materials together and just to see what happens, to actually sort of plan according to one's knowledge the experiment, and like you say, okay, well, try it drop by drop and observe and go, oh, well, this is what happens at this concentration. I see now, I understand now. You can gain more understanding that way.
Still you need the plan and to follow the plan, so you need intentions. Basically, we get what we intend, or we don't get.
Yes, there was a saying of that back in the 60s of what you see is what you get. So whatever our vision is that's our limitation of what we'll get, basically, or at least the criteria for what we'll get.
We used to have in physicality what we put attention on.
Sorry, say that again.
What we put the attention on it, that is what we used to have in physicality.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else have something they would like to present or something to discuss? I don't have anything else lined up here, so if there's nothing to discuss and nothing to present, you're stuck with me. I don't want to just keep talking.
Hey, Rick, did anybody discuss the closing of the, what I heard was closing of observatories?
No, I haven't heard much about that other than they had some undesirable people show up or person show up that seemed to be a security threat is the story I heard. And they basically shut it down. And since it was a remote location, they couldn't guarantee the safety of their employees and so on, so they had to shut it down.
I've heard at least 3 different versions and theories. I mean, in the meanwhile, the news say that New Mexico Observatory is open again.
Yes,
so I don't know how much actual is, so people are riding a past wave.
They have lots of new visitors because they're all curious about what's really going on here because they've heard all the conspiracy theories. So now the conspiracy theories are becoming true because they're being believed by so many people. That is it true that all these people are showing up at the observatory because there's something going on? Well, yes, they're showing up because they think there's something going on, so therefore they're showing up, therefore there's something going on. I don't know. It's hard to say. There's so many layers of information that sometimes it's hard to see through the truth in that one, but I think it's more benign than what we give it credit for in terms of these conspiracy theories that are bouncing around. But is there other ideas in that you'd like to bring up?
So have they seen the UFOs and then they have been just closed down instantaneously? That's one of the conspiracy theory, I wonder. And I wish it would be the reality. And but what do you think? Would that be the, well, chance? Is there a chance of that?
I thought it might be a confirmation of what Carolyn has been saying. They're in position. They're around. So
maybe this morning
manifested or something briefly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then why have no scientists come forward to say something about it? Because they're all being suppressed. Okay, there's another conspiracy theory for you.
Well, that's just a simple equation of in between whether you have a family to protect or not, because it's just a simple sentence where it would put you in a psychosis where you could do anything for the person who's threatening you. It would be just a second it would take you put into that understanding. And for most of the scientists, they're really light-hearted people. They're really beautiful people. They just want to save the world simply, and they are not thinking about any guns or anything like that. Maybe need to know basis. They don't even know what they're doing. Poor things. That's why I think of scientists these days. Therefore, I think that we are beautiful people. It's just trying to do what it needs to be done, and most of us sacrifice ourselves. We've seen the examples the scariest example I've seen from Mr. Keshe, and it's just real. I mean, like you invent something, they want to steal it from you. This is real. This is how much I think about it, but it gives me the courage to be able to continue with what I understand, because I am no one. That's what I believe. And I can go on and on and on and on. So what? Plasma is understood by everyone that hasn't been put a name, which means in people's heart, we need to just put it in a place where we think it's real, it's there, and then we start seeing the benefit of it. And we're in that little tiny threshold. That's what I believe, and that's what I'm working for. Thank you. I don't even know how I started this conversation. So, thank you.
Makes me wonder sometimes too. Thank you, Alper. Okay, we've got a comment or question from Renee in the live stream. It says, hello, knowledge seekers. I'm thinking about resonance, which can occur in an electrical circuit and produce wonderful effects. Is resonance a special form of plasma fields?
Not again.
Form of plasma fields. Sorry, what was that, Shandor?
Oh, not again. Is the harmony a specific type of harp or guitar or piano? It's a confusion of concepts. So field is field, and field is an entity. Field is something which exists, and resonance is a phenomenon. It's a behavior of something. So please clarify your concepts in your knowledge about the meaning of the words. Resonance is an effect. Resonance is a behavior. Resonance is something which occurs. It's not a thing. You cannot take a resonance from one shelf and put it on the other. It's like dance. And field is like other dancers. Is the tango or valse a special type of dancer? No. Dance is one of the behaviors of the dancers. So please clarify your concepts about the meaning of the words before asking in this way. Oh, not again.
Okay, thank you, Shandor. Anyone else?
Resonance is related to vibration. Two things which vibrate can resonate. So you need two things, first of all, which vibrate in a specific way. And these two vibrations have to interact in order to create a resonance. How about opening, take down from your shelf, dust the covers and open your Merriam-Webster's dictionary or Oxford Concise Dictionary or whatever dictionary, which tells the meanings of the words. It may be really very useful. I'm using dictionaries very often. It helps a lot, believe me.
Yeah, anybody else want to comment about that? Shall we pass? All right. right, let's carry on then. Anybody have something they'd like to bring up, or shall we close the session for today? We'll have a bit of a short session perhaps. Pretty quiet group here today. Hard to get a laugh. Well, maybe we should close for today. I don't have much else to present right now. I had a busy day and couldn't get things ready. I do have this nice little new from the dollar store ornament thing. They're coming out for whatever new season. I don't know what it is. I think it's Halloween or something. But it's a little ornament thing that hangs up. And I put a ping pong ball inside. But it's interesting in that this, to pull the little doohickey off, it's got a hole in the top of this container, and it also has the bottom screw part that screws on, so it's made to hang this way. But it's interesting in that it's a very tough plastic. First of all, you can crumple it, it doesn't break. It's made to be practically unbreakable. And since it has the hole in it there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some experiments with, for example, a ping pong ball. Could be a GANS ball. And I'm going to rotate the ball without using a motor. Well, I'm going to use a motor, but on a separate system. And I'm going to use inject water fluid, GANS water, GANS plasma water, into an injector here. It'll spin around inside and come out this center hole, creating a vortex inside this container. And so when that happens, I'll have a pump separate with lines going in and out of this, and it will create a vortex rotating the ball. So that's the idea, is to have a to rotate a GANS ball without a motor, direct motor drive, no metal parts involved, no interaction of rotating motors or fields or anything in this system. It'll just be fluid going in and out, and to create the rotation. Now, the actual fluid itself is important because it could be different kinds of GANs. You could have nano-materials, maybe the copper oxide nano could be in the actual rotating fluid as well. You could have different effects going on. You could leave the GANs, leave the ping pong ball out and just have rotating GANs fluid inside, and maybe that's enough to create an effect. With the proper gradation of the vortex, the different layers inside the vortex, it should be possible to create that friction that Mr. Keshe has talked about that produces light. So that's one effect that I'd like to go for, with rotating the fields inside of a container like this, enough intensity to create a light effect. So we'll see. Maybe I'll have that ready for next time around. Anybody else have any interesting projects going on? Maybe they have something that they want to present next week. And also a reminder that if people have things that they found that are interesting, they like to present. It'd be good to make it in a Plasma Scientific Journal entry. And there's a place to put in your Plasma Scientific Journal links to your experiment or links to your pictures. And it's in the Keshe Foundation support site. And you go to the Plasma Scientific Journal box. There's a drop-down box in the support site for the Plasma Scientific Journal, and you can use the forms there to put your entry in. And that'll show up if it's accepted and everything. And I understand that they should be accepted unless there's little issues that need to be resolved. And then they'll be put in the Plasma Times as the last couple of Plasma Scientific Journal entries are. So it's kind of a fun way to do a testimonial or to make an experiment and have a place to put it where others can view it and others can learn from your experiment. And then we'll build up a database of the exact procedures and so on, so that we can compare with others and correlate the results and look for consistencies and that kind of thing. Okay, and what else do we have coming up? Well, we've got the Knowledge Seekers Workshop coming up on Thursday as per usual. And I think Mr. Keshe will have something special for that. Can't say anything else about that, but he's working on a few things. And what else? We've got the private teachings in the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute have started this week for the fall trimester. And so there's new classes and new teachers and hosts and so on in that teaching, which also includes the professional level teachings for doctors and for agriculturalists or professional farmers. So there's different levels and different activities are available on the public and private teachings of the Keshe Foundation. And all right, well, we have a question in the live stream, so maybe we have to look at that a bit. Renee asked again, has anyone tried to build a tank circuit where a resonance happens within the nano-coated structures? Tank circuit. Well, a tank circuit is I believe you could call a LC circuit, which is inductor capacitor circuit. The inductor is a coil, the capacitor is two plates, and between them you have a tank circuit, which the little electrons will surge back and forth between the coil, which retains a magnetic field, and the plates, which retain an electric field. And the tank circuit, you have a resonance between the coil and the capacitor, and the bounces back and forth at a resonant frequency. So is there a resonance within nano-coated structures? And then Stephen Lee says, can you put a resonance through one reactor and the other reactor a different resonant frequency? Well, you can play with resonance with structures. It may or may not have much to do with plasma, however. Every object has a natural resonant frequency, and you can use that frequency to cause it to vibrate and cause other objects to vibrate through that vibration. And that's happened. We've seen that in reactors, and get one is vibrating on the table, and it may start another one vibrating that's nearby or create other effects. You've also seen some people have done the what do you call it, the making fields in water, the waves in water, cymatics, using vibration of a speaker or a vibration of a rotating motor, and it will create waves in a plate or bowl of water. Or other substances, such oil is used sometimes, or other nanomaterials are used, and creates different structures with the vibrations. And you can see with that, different reactors would have different vibrations or different interactions. But not sure if resonance is the correct word there. When Mr. Keshe is addressed with questions about resonance or frequency, then he usually kind of just says there's no frequencies out in space. It's not frequency based. It's plasma field interactions, or rays and fields, basically, not necessarily resonance, although ratios seem important. Anybody else have something they could add to that or subtract from it?
Sound, I have tried to capture, record in different forms, different understandings, put microphones, gone really nerd on it, on towards it, use different tools, iPad to record. In the beginning, Mr. Keshe told once that use AM and FM radio. If it cancels out, or if it gives out the different beating out of the radio, canceling out means the frequency is being radiated out towards everywhere, is not penetrated by the tool that is next to it. Therefore, it only picks up the tool's intention. That's where the heartbeat comes from. It actually doesn't pick up internet. That's not the case. Doesn't pick up any radio frequencies. It only purely picks up the tool when it's in ratio, which I'm not a number person, where I can't actually describe it and put it in a formula for you. It changes where us as humans filled up with the intention. I believe we are already creating that situation before we have already put the tools together, and that's what I think. I mean, well, let's ask questions. I don't know. These are all You would think that I am a big thinker, but these ideas comes randomly, and it's questionable. Of course, everybody should question everything upon everyone within the environment. I am so pleased where we are here right now that I am freely talking, being able to express myself. It was very scary in the beginning, maybe, but for the ones that are joining newly, you should really feel friendly, and then they're really in a very family environment. That's what I would think. I wouldn't be here otherwise after years and years. And my father is Rick. He told me of many times. I would accept that, which is beautiful. I love it, because I would then come align myself and understand myself and approach it accordingly to be able to understand others. And it puts me in a line where everything is in line. So it's all friendly. Thank you, Rick. I'm not going to talk anymore. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Halper, for your thoughts. Okay, anybody else have anything they'd like to bring up here? It's been pretty quiet, and if there's nothing to get people excited, I don't have much to show for show and tell here today, so I'm not sure how to carry on, and we may have to just close, I guess, if we can't come up with something that's worthwhile for people that wants to keep them here. So again, is there anything that anybody would like to bring up, or shall we close? Stephen in the chat live stream mentions, if you grow synthetic food on a wire, are you a farmer or an electrician? Here's a good pondering question for you. Are the food producers of the future going to be, actually they're plasmaticians, perhaps, people that work with plasmacizers. Okay, I think we'll call it a wrap for today. And oh, there's one other thing I'll mention, which is Mr. Keshe has asked people to try to get their questions, any questions you may have for the Knowledge Seekers workshop, to try to put them down and write them down and send them in to the education department, which will put the questions together. It's education@kfssi.org. And the questions can be, you can have them from yourself, or you can specify you don't want your name used. Some people don't, still shy about having their name come up in the teachings and so on. So we have that, we do have that as to respect that. Some people do want to remain anonymous. So you can put your questions together and send them in, and then we'll have a list of questions that are already there, ready for Mr. Keshe to answer in the Q&A. So he's requested that we go through that procedure when possible. And if people are in different groups and they're discussing certain topics and some tough questions come up that aren't getting answered, then that would be a good opportunity to get the question down and get it sent into the education department who will put them together and make them available to me or other hosts to be able to present in the workshop. So it's a good opportunity. I think Mr. Keshe just wants it a little more together on the questions, and so they're well thought of and not just spur of the moment questions. Although there will be that as well, no doubt. Okay, well, let's wrap things up for today. And have a shorter session than usual, but that's okay. Sometimes that's the way it needs to be. Okay, I'll end the live stream, and this will be the end of the...
Rick, if you want, make 2 or 3 questions and somebody else interact. Make the question, what is it in reactor of CO2? And another, perhaps initial respond what you think is inside.
You want to do that now, you mean? Is that what you mean?
If it's not too late or tired in the night in your part.
Yeah, I've already donated what I can out of that conversation, and maybe there's some new input that somebody would like to put in, perhaps. We could go on, if you wish.
Oh, it's interesting what another people are thinking regarding in all type of question in this group. No, when you are saying something, somebody else making any comment or how to think regarding from this from your point of view.
Yeah, we didn't get a whole lot of input from people on that last time, so that's why I'm a little hesitant on going through it again here. Well, if you want to, Dan, we could do that. Do you want to do the whiteboard again and ask the question?
No, it's this is the problem. Problem is when another not interact, listen. Yes, I listen what you say, everything, but it's not interact.
So I listen to what you talk, but should I interrupt you?
Yes, why not, Mr. Shandor?
Please.
Because when
I did, it was thrown up very much.
What was that? What do you mean? What was thrown up, or what do you mean?
Oh, once I was moved to attendee for being too overactive, too hyperactive.
I like when you share your knowledge, Sandor.
So Dan wants something, so maybe he can explain with an example.
No, it's only I want something. I like a person, like a. But when Mr. Rick saying nobody show anything or making topic or say something, and everybody else listen, and nobody interact. And I put this question: nobody interact, and you saying, "Oh, you want to interact?"
So probably every listener doesn't think he's a nobody, so nobody replies that he's nobody.
Good point.
Okay, let's let Rick take his rest. He had a long day anyway.
Of course, I'm sorry.
Pretty burned out. I can't even think about this stuff anymore, actually. But you know, I'm willing to continue if you want to set up a question and discuss it and so on. But I'm having trouble getting people to respond, so I'm ready to shut down, and we'll take it up again next week. No big deal. So, you know, part of it is me. I should have something prepared and presentable and to inspire people. But I don't right now. I'm totally exhausted and burned out. I don't have anything ready because I've been working my butt off. So I'm not able to function too well right now. But that's okay. And if there's nobody else that we present something other than some ideas and stuff that we toss around, then you know this is your group. So if there's no input, then we let it go and take it up again next week.
Very good. And if somebody has so much free time that he cannot do something with it, has no idea what to do, it's better to use it to build up something, to have something to show next week in Keshe Plasma Reactor Group at the same time.
Yeah, that's what it's for, is show and tell here. It's fine to be discussing ideas and so on, but it's really comes down to it. It's part of what gets manifest. What are you willing to manifest as a creator? What have you come up with from your end?
Show your reactors.
Not that we're into the just physicality stuff, but it's part of the process is that we need to have more than an idea to talk about. I think we need to have something to focus on that's some sort of accomplishment, some sort of effect, some sort of something real that we can relate to. So,
could I show my non-dimensional, non-tangible reactors next week? I don't know how to get them in the matter state, though.
Yeah, how do you talk about something that has no handles to describe? You're certainly welcome to try. Yeah, it's true. It's the non-tangible is what we're after here in many ways, but at the same time, we have to have something that generates the fields and does the interactions and something that produces a light reflection and a sound interface. So generally through light and sound, we experience things, especially from others, especially if you're online, it's either light or sound. And of course, the direct effect of the instant communications through the soul, but it's generally through the light and the sound that we tend to communicate. So in that light, and with what Chandra said, be nice to have something that shows some light and sound for next week's demonstrations. It's something we've been all looking forward to and trying to work with for years now. It's this creation of light through the interaction of
Hi, Rick.
something or another. Hi, how you doing, Jalal?
Fine, thank you. Hi, guys. I would like to propose that you see the workshop 207 we just discussed in this week. It's very beautiful session. If someone didn't have the pleasure to know the information inside it, just look it 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 times. You will understand a lot. And this is also for please then see this 207 knowledge workshop. It's beautiful. It will help you to understand more. Thank you. I don't have time to speak much.
Okay, thank you, Jalal. I guess that would be the Mr. Keshe's teaching part of that workshop, of course, the actual teaching part that you're referring to. I think it was brought up in this week's private teaching, yeah.
Oh, he speak about the vertical people and all what you are doing now with the CO2 books and gases and all of that is from this knowledge, from the vertical people. So you will understand a lot.
All right, that's a good reference. Maybe there's something in that that could help Dan to formulate his question better and others around that whole GANS box operation. Alrighty, I think I'm going to wrap things up for today then. So thanks once again for everyone for attending and participating, and we'll look forward to another session next week, and let's look for some light and sound with our experiments. It's time for that. Time to see some interaction of the light. Okay, we'll end the live stream for now. Oh, it has quit unexpectedly. Okay.
Hi.
And we'll end the